So this is always a fun program. So to recognize two outstanding students, and today we'll be recognizing students from Del Val High School. So I'd like to invite Mr. Daryl Avila up, who's the principal from Del Val, to introduce each of the two students.
Carolyn, thank you. Madam President, Rotarians, guests, thank you for again giving us this opportunity to come here and for me to show off two outstanding young ladies. They are truly fabulous young people, and they're going to do great things. And I'd like to have them both come up here and maybe join us at the side. Elizabeth Hernandez and J.D. Taylor.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is J.D. Taylor, and I graduated early from Del Val High School. I would like to start off by thanking Del Val for giving me the opportunity of attending and graduating from their school. The entire staff has always encouraged me to do my best, and I think that I just had a better individualized experience at Del Val. I went to Granada and I went to Vineyard, which is an alternative independent studies program, and I just feel like Del Val's way of working with me definitely benefited me. And I would like to give a special thank you to Allison Petersdorf. She's not here, but she's Del Val school counselor, and I have no idea how I would have accomplished everything I have these past 2 years without her help. She's been there for me in so many ways, and she's inspired me to believe I can do anything I set my mind to. My main plan for my future is to start my career off as a massage therapist, and I'm enrolled in a vocational school, and I'll be starting classes next week. And massage therapy is one of the top 20 growing industries in the United States due to all of the medical research that's being conducted. Scientists are researching how the effects of massage therapy benefit patients physically. There are proven effects for cancer patients and pregnant women and injured athletes, or just anyone who wants to relax.
Yes.
So I'm very excited to start that. And again, I would like to thank the entire staff at Del Val for helping me with everything, and I would like to thank everybody here for giving me this award. I'm extremely honored, and I feel like all of my hard work is finally being recognized.
Hi, my name is Elizabeth Hernandez, and I am very honored to be here today. I attended my freshman and sophomore year at Granada, and it was a great school. Unfortunately, I didn't pass my classes, and I didn't have enough credits to graduate. So I myself decided to graduate to transfer to Del Val. Del Val is a great school. I took extra classes, and one of the classes I took was leadership, and it was really fun. I would create fun activities for students to participate in. Del Val had lots of different classes to offer with amazing teachers. My teacher was so loving, and she would always talk to me about graduating early, which really excited me. So I set a goal for myself to graduate by the end of the second trimester, and I did. I was able to graduate even before the trimester was over. So I'm so thankful to have been an early graduate from Del Val High School, to have awesome teachers and a wonderful principal. Since I graduated early, I will be able to start on my future goals. I will be attending Las Positas in the fall for 2 years, and then hopefully transferring to a UC. I don't know exactly what I want to do, but I want to continue my education, and thanks to Del Val I can. So thank you for being here. Thank you for having me here today.
Sorry.
So congratulations again to both JD and Elizabeth. It's wonderful to see, and we recognize and really support all students, no matter what their path is. And really congratulations to both of you for graduating early and knowing what you're going to do in the future. We have a couple gifts for you. We have a plaque with each of your names as outstanding student, a book about public speaking written by our own fellow Rotarian Barbara Hickman, some gift certificates from Carl's Jr.'s, Granada Bowl, and the Vine Cinema. So you get to have a little bit of fun too. So thank you again and congratulations.
So I just told JD she needs to apply for our vocational scholarship. That'd be great, huh? So we know that JR just got back from PETS last week and he's going to talk about the district conference. But I just want to let you know there's a milestone. I just entered your name into Rotary International as the incoming president. So it's official.
Now there really is no turning back. I'm kind of scared now.
Let's leave the room.
Yeah. Anyways, district conference is, the name of it's called Close Encounters of the Rotary Kind. So, anyways, it's April 17th through 19th. It's going to be at in San Jose. What I'm going to do is have Bob email everybody out the form just in case you want to go. I'm encouraging everybody to go. It's going to be a great time. I'll be there. I'll be leading the charge to fun. And if you've ever hung around me, I really have fun. So, anyways, yeah. Outside of that, sure. All right. So, this is something I'm gonna really focus on, and we're gonna do a business minute right now. So, Bill Grove, you got a business minute. Stand up and tell us what you do and what you're about.
My name is Bill Grove. I am a mortgage advisor here in Livermore for a company called Opus Advisors, previously known as Landmark Mortgage. It's the same company, we just changed the name. And my job is to find people who want to borrow money, basically, on residential units and refinances. And I also do reverse mortgages for seniors that are 62 or over.
Awesome. That'll be $5 in the bucket.
So let's get that bucket passing around. And as JR mentioned that the district conference is coming up in April, one of the meetings that is available for members is the Paul Harris Society, and you get a special reception. But we'll hear more about that later. But what I wanted to do is have Stu come up and talk about the Rotary Foundation and the Paul Harris Society. So Stu.
Okay, good. A little bit of choreography here. As you know, a couple of weeks ago, I complimented and thanked the club for your generous giving to the Rotary International Foundation. We've met and exceeded our goal for the year, which was 5% larger, as you remember from last year. There are three ways that the foundation internationally likes to compliment and thank its Rotarian givers. And as you know, one is a Paul Harris pin with a series of stones in it for the different multiple levels of giving. There are a couple of new awards that we're going to start right now by also giving recipients. The first is a Paul Harris Society pin. You can be a Paul Harris giver, but Rotary RI, double repeating there, RI has created a new category called a Paul Harris Society. To be in the Paul Harris Society, you pledge to give $1,000 or more each and every year you're able to. And if you make that pledge, you get a new little pin on your pin. Phil, did I fairly well cover that? So I'm going to call 3 names up. They're the first 3 in this club to get, they've signed that commitment, and they're going to get a special little supplemental pin. And that's Phil Dean, Mark Roberts, and Deborah McQueen.
Oh,
And I don't see Deborah today. If you two would stay up here, please. Deborah's not here. The next recognition I have today, Paul Brown. Paul here?
Yep.
Come on up, Paul. Paul has his Paul Harris +6 pin.
Oh, wow.
+6 number. You gonna get your pin? Stay there for a picture. Now,
is this all of them here?
well, that's A group. We're gonna do one more big group here in a second.
Okay.
I didn't prepare the photographer for the big group.
Squish it.
There we go. Squish, squish. Hang on. Okay. Chins down, big smile.
Corned beef. No cheese, okay. Now, we also have from the foundation, everybody this year who has given and paid to date $1,000 or more gets a letter of thanks and a certificate from District 5170. So now I have 20 names to call. Would you please hold your applause to the end? If you're in the room, please come up in alphabetical order. Keith Beck, Paul Brown, Bob Cowan, Kathy Coyle, Jay Davis, Phil Dean, Milt Finger, Sue Gallinger, Hagop here, I didn't see him today. Deborah McQueen, Gaud, Donna Pontow, Mark Roberts again, Millie Seibel, President Millie, Sherry Sheets, Lori Souza, Nancy Steele, Irv Stowers, Paul Thompson, Jackie Williams Courtwright. Let's give them all a hand, please.
Milt just dared me to get y'all in one picture.
And as you all crowd into the picture, for the rest of us who are still paying on your pledges, I told you a couple of weeks ago, we would be hounding
Squish in,
you.
squish, squish, come on. Here, this way.
Mike Thompson, you're right. I'm sorry, Mike. Wait, one more picture, let Mike come up.
Mike Thompson, he did. Oh, his brother.
Yeah, the other Thompson, we had a typo.
Yeah.
The short one.
This is, go ahead,
Off
TJ.
to the side, Deborah McQueen is also singing in the chorus of Lucia de Lammermoor, and that happens Saturday and Sunday of this coming weekend.
Cool.
So Deborah.
Okay, try it again.
One more time.
One more
last
time?
Yeah, we'll actually make
Come
it
on.
good this time.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, chins down, big smile.
Got it.
Thank you.
So again, to the rest of you who have pledged or been making partial payments, remember by June 30, end of the Rotary year, Paul and I, Pat and I are going to start hounding you for the remaining payments. Those of you that have not done it yet, I really encourage you to please pay online to RI with your credit card. You can give us a check, we have to process it, but the simple, easy way now to do your giving to RI is just to go online to Rotary International. If you don't have an email account, it's 2 steps to create one. Create an email account, give them your credit card number, and choose how to give to the foundation. Remember, you can give to the Global Foundation or any one of the 6 sub-programs. You can target your giving to the foundation. Very easy to do online now. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Sue. We are a very giving club, and it's great that we get to recognize our members who do contribute. Other ways of giving, maybe giving to community members and maybe our student exchange students. So Yvonne, do you want to give us a little bit of what you have proposed?
Well, it's not actually giving. We have an exchange student that we sponsor from Italy. He's attending high school here in Livermore for this year.
That didn't get introduced today.
Oh my goodness, Lorenzo, would you please stand up?
Yeah, and so Ken, that's an expensive miss.
So Lorenzo is a very industrious young man. He worked 3 jobs in order to pay the money to do the exchange to get here this year for his exchange. And now he's trying to earn money to take a Rotary-sponsored trip on the East Coast to learn about history and the United States on a bus trip with other youth exchange students. So he needs to earn some money. And he's worked for Splend and some friends of Splend. He's worked in my backyard
Good reference.
yesterday, or I shouldn't say yesterday, last weekend for 10 hours trimming bushes.
Whoa,
So he's
strong
not,
young man.
he's not asking for a gift, he's asking for work, but he can't hold a regular job. So it's, you would donate to him and he would be your slave.
Okay, guys.
But I can tell you from firsthand experience that he spent 10.5 hours on the hill in my backyard and trimmed about 10 to 15 bushes. And we filled up 7 green waste bins from my neighbors. They knew how much
Oh,
work
wow.
he did for me last weekend. So he's a good worker. Anyway, if you would like to have him do yard work, cleaning, wash your car, whatever it is, I have a little sign-up sheet here. Just put your name clearly written and your telephone number. I will give the list to Lorenzo and he will call you and see if
Great.
he can be of service to you and you will help him experience the USA. So,
Can we keep that at the checkout table? I think it'd be easier than passing it.
absolutely.
Because that way, if you're really interested, this is going to help Lorenzo to really experience America by helping cleaning our backyards. And also get to see a trip and go see some really nice sights.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
Thanks, Yvonne. We appreciate that. So, Paul, a little bit about rodeo business.
So I hope everyone has put down June 13th on their calendar because I'm going to need pretty much everyone in the club to come out and help with the parade as ever. The sign-up sheet for sponsors, we want to be able to pay for the parade, so is going around the club. And also, next Wednesday at 5:30 at my office, I'm going to have an organizational meeting, so if you'd like to help with the parade, come to my office at 5:30. I'm on the corner of L and Elm, North L. So that's not Livermore Avenue. I'm at 691 North L Street. It's corner of L and Elm. And next Wednesday at 5:30 for an organizational meeting. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Paul. So we're right on time. This clock says 12 o'clock, so we're really early, but I guess it didn't get the memo. So if we could have Lynn come up and introduce our speaker. Oh, I forgot Steve. Okay. Yeah.
Our speaker today is Clay Widmeyer. Clay Widmeyer joined the Tri Valley Conservancy Board as the city representative appointee in 2013 and now serves on both the resources development and major donor committees. So hold your wallets. Clay's interest in preserving open space here in the valley goes back a long ways. He was born and raised in Walla Walla, Washington, population around 32,000 people, the Pacific Northwest preeminent wine region with over 74 wineries. He has previously served as treasurer of the Friends of Livermore. His interests include open space conservation, public planning, and transportation. In their spare time, Clay and his wife Dee Dee enjoy traveling, camping, hiking, and raising their rescue dogs. Their long-term goal is to visit all 58 national parks. He received a BA in physics from Whitman College, an MS and PhD in physics from the University of Oregon. Clay has lived in Livermore for 18 years and works as a physicist at Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory and the National Ignition Facility. Clay?
Lynn, look, there we go, look at me. Every time I took it before, you'd look down just then.
Okay, thank you, Lynn. And thank you, everybody, for inviting us and having us here today and allowing us to introduce you to the Tri Valley Conservancy. So we always like to start off this talk by giving you a little information about who we are and what our organization does. And what the Tri Valley Conservancy is we are a nonprofit land trust. And what that means is our organization was formed to protect open space and agricultural land, not by acquiring and owning land, but by owning and permanently protecting the development rights on land. And I'll explain a little bit more in a couple view graphs how that works. But for right now, I can tell you that the Tri Valley Conservancy currently owns and protects in perpetuity 4,300 acres of some of the most beautiful open space and productive ag land in the South Livermore Valley. We also want to tell you a little bit about where we fit in the larger land conservation movement. Currently, there's about 1,700 land trusts like ourselves in the United States of various shapes and sizes. 104 of those are based in the state of California, and the Tri Valley Conservancy is the only land trust that's based in Alameda County. Furthermore, we're one of only 31 land trusts in California that are fully accredited, and what that means is that the Land Trust Alliance has conducted an independent audit of our organization, and they've inspected our finances, our bylaws, our code of conduct, our conflict of interest policies, our board of directors, and they've determined that we meet their standards of excellence as the only accrediting agency for land trusts in the United States. And that's something that we're very proud of. The way that the Tri Valley Conservancy came to be is that we were created as part of what's called the South Livermore Valley Area Plan. The plan is a land use planning and development framework and strategy that was created a little over 20 years ago in the early 1990s by a coalition of agencies that included Alameda County, the cities of Livermore and Pleasanton, the Friends of the Vineyards, the Livermore Wine Growers Association, and perhaps most importantly, landowners themselves in the South Livermore Valley. And this coalition of agencies came together because they recognized a need to achieve two goals. One of them was the revitalization and the support of the Livermore Valley wine industry and our agricultural heritage, which at that time was experiencing a downturn and undergoing the threat of development. And their second goal, which was equally important, was to promote the quality of life for everybody in the Tri-Valley by preserving our scenic beauty, our open spaces, the recreational opportunities, and the overall agricultural lifestyle and rural ambiance that's present in the South Livermore Valley and makes this a good place for all of us to live. And the South Livermore Valley Plan founders recognized at that time that one of the things that was needed as part of that planning process was the creation of a land trust to hold and protect the development rights on the land in the South Livermore Valley. And that was when the Tri Valley Conservancy was created. And the way the Tri Valley Conservancy fulfills that mission of protecting that land is through a mechanism called a conservation easement. And at this point in the talk, we'd like to stop and explain a little bit about what a conservation easement is and how it works, because many people find it mysterious, even though it's actually quite simple. So basically, a conservation easement is nothing more than a legal agreement between two parties, in this case a landowner and a second party, in our case a land trust, which allows a landowner to transfer some of the rights of the ownership of their property to another party while retaining the ownership of the land itself and the other rights.
What color is it?
An example of the rights that the landowners have when they own their land is, for example, they have the right to live on the land, of course. They have the right to cultivate it by planting crops or landscaping. Many times they have water rights or mineral rights. They have the right to privacy to admit and deny access to anybody that they want. But for our purposes, the important and interesting landowner right is the development rights. They have the right to build structures on the land. And the way the Tri Valley Conservancy does its business is we work with willing and voluntary landowners who want to continue to own their land, continue to live and or work on their land, but they want to preserve the land in its current state, either as open space or as working ag land, even after they're gone and they can't, and they aren't here to protect it anymore. And they view a conservation easement, rightly so, as a way of achieving those goals. And the conservation easement historically has been a very effective tool for both landowners and the Tri Valley Conservancy in achieving the goals of the South Livermore Valley Plan. Because in 1993, when the plan was created, there were 1,200 acres of vineyards and 6 wineries in the South Livermore Valley. The following year, 1994, the Tri Valley Conservancy was incorporated, at that time known as the South Livermore Valley Agricultural Land Trust. And today, 21 years later, that 1,200 acres has more than quadrupled to over 5,000 acres of cultivated vineyards, and the 6 wineries have grown into over 50. And the TVC now protects, as I said, 4,300 acres of conservation easements distributed over 60 conservation easement properties. And those 4,300 acres that the Tri Valley Conservancy guards and protects, we think are some of the most beautiful and productive ag land in the Tri Valley, if not the whole state of California. And it includes vineyards, orchards like this pistachio orchard. Our conservation land contains 8 miles of hiking and biking trails. We conserve parkland like this parcel in Sycamore Grove Park, olive orchards, ranch land and cattle grazing land. But of course, our most predominant land use on our conservation lands is vineyards, which constitute 3,800 of the 4,300 acres that we protect. And so if you look at this map, this is a nice way to view the property that the Tri Valley Conservancy protects. In this map, you can see the cities of Livermore and Pleasanton are in the middle of the map. The South Livermore Valley area, which is protected by the plan, is the 14,000 acre region to the south of those 2 cities, and the 4,300 acres are shown in green. And 2 things jump out at us from this map. The first one is that the landowners and the TVC working together have done a very effective job of creating a permanently protected greenbelt on the south of our city. But it's also evident that all around the communities of Livermore and Pleasanton and Dublin, there's thousands and thousands of acres of additional open space that has equal scenic value and has agricultural productivity and potential, but that land is not yet protected by at the same level as our conservation land acreage in the South Livermore Valley. So in the Tri Valley Conservancy, we think of ourselves as having 2 missions. Our primary mission, which is our primary fiduciary and moral responsibility, is to continue to be a strong and sound organization in perpetuity to protect the 4,300 acres that we guard in South Livermore Valley. But we also think that we need to be there for the community when there's a need to protect these other properties in the North Livermore Valley, South Pleasanton, or the Altamont Ridgeline to the east. Because these properties have lots of beautiful farmland, ranch land like this parcel in the North Livermore Valley. We wish to help protect and support our ranching and grazing and equestrian industries the way we support the wine industry. We want to continue to expand and enhance our parklands, protect wildlife habitat, and sensitive ecosystems like this wetlands in the North Livermore Springtown area. So the Tri Valley Conservancy is constantly trying not to rest on our laurels, but to reach out and to continue to help the rest of the Tri Valley as well. So in the last few minutes that I have in my talk, I'd like to share 2 stories with you of land conservation successes that occurred in the year 2014, which was a very successful and an excellent year for land conservation in the Tri Valley. And those two stories are the protection of Doolin Canyon from development and the addition of 74 acres to Sycamore Grove Park. Okay, so many of you might know that Doolin Canyon is a beautiful open space that lies between East Dublin and the North Livermore Valley. As you can see from this picture, Doolin Canyon has considerable scenic value of its own, especially in the spring when the grasses are green. But in addition, it's been working agricultural land for 150 years. The majority of the canyon is covered with working ranches and grazing and livestock. But in 2014, a developer proposed a real estate development in Doolin Canyon with 1,900 units. You can see the geography of the Doolin Canyon area in this map. On the left side of the map is the city of Dublin, and on the lower right is the westernmost part of the city of Livermore, and the blue solid line shows our Livermore urban growth boundary. Doolin Canyon runs from north to south in the middle of the map, from Interstate 580 at the bottom to the Contra Costa County border, which runs diagonally along the top of the map. The northern part of the canyon is, oh, okay, thank you. The northern part of the Doolin Canyon is an East Bay Regional Park Preserve. It's 640 acres or 1 square mile. It's not currently open to the public, which is what they mean when they call it a preserve, but soon it's going to be a beautiful East Bay Regional Park. I've hiked the property myself 2 times, and I can assure you it's going to be a jewel. Immediately to the south of the East Bay Regional Park Preserve is the 1,500 acre approximately region that was proposed for the 1,900 housing units. When this development proposal became public, what happened was that the Tri Valley community gathered together as a team and vocalized their desire not to have a development in that region. And they worked together as a team, ultimately opposed the development, and prevented it from happening. And like I said, that was truly a team effort. No single individual or agency could have accomplished it on their own, but I can describe to you a couple of the highlights. In the spring of 2014, the citizens of Dublin conducted a signature gathering petition, and they presented the Dublin City Council with a proposal to create an urban growth boundary on the east side of Dublin, which previously did not exist. Dublin had a western urban growth boundary, but not one on the east. And I'm happy to tell you that the Dublin City Council in June, as you may have heard, voted unanimously 5-0 to establish that urban growth boundary, and that is shown by the green line going down the middle of the map. Now, the developers, in response to that, also conducted their own signature gathering petition, which ultimately ended up being on the November Dublin City Council election as ballot measure T. And the result, or the goal of the developer-sponsored initiative would have been to move the newly created urban growth boundary to the east in such a location as to permit the development, and to direct the Dublin City Council to annex the land in Doolin Canyon and to approve the development. At that time, a grassroots coalition of Tri Valley residents and agencies gathered together to campaign against the developer-sponsored initiative, and the result of that particular campaign was led by the Tri Valley Conservancy and our cohort organizations, the Sierra Club, Save Mount Diablo, the Greenbelt Alliance, and the Friends of the Vineyards. And the result of that campaign was that the Dublin voters defeated that ballot measure proposal by 82 to 18%. So that was a tremendous victory for land conservation. The final thing I want to, the final story I want to tell you is about the addition of 74 acres to Sycamore Grove Park, which is illustrated with this photo right here. This photo is taken from the upper portion of Sycamore Grove Park, looking to the east. You can see the Veterans Hospital with the Wendy Golf Course behind it. To the south, the Cresta Blanca, of course, is in the middle of the picture, and Del Val Park is on the right side of the picture, which is to the south, Veterans Hospital is to the north. The 74-acre addition to Sycamore Grove Park is shown in the foreground of this picture, and it extends down the hillside to Arroyo Road, where it now connects to make one continuous open space constituting Sycamore Grove Park and Camp Arroyo and Del Val Parks, which are part of the East Bay Regional Park District system. This land was previously owned by the Tri Valley Conservancy, and this transferal of open space is the second to the last step in a process that's taken several years and which people have been working on for a very long time. And there's tremendous value to this expansion of Sycamore Grove Park, which goes way beyond the scenic beauty that you see in this picture or the 74 acres. And that can be seen in this map. Sycamore Grove Park, the original portion of it, is shown by this olive section right here. This section was added afterwards, and the Tri Valley Conservancy also has a conservation easement here. And the East Bay Regional Park District parcels are shown here, Camp Arroyo Park and Del Val, which extends very far in this way to the south. Now, the 74-acre parcel is shown by this green outline right here, and the great strategic value of this expansion of Sycamore Grove Park is now, for the first time, Sycamore Grove Park will now be connected to the East Bay Regional Park District properties by this section right here. And that is going to allow the connection of the very popular and heavily used trail system of LARPD's Sycamore Grove Park with the Del Val trail system, which extends for 30 miles from Del Val into the Ohlone Wilderness and then to Mission Peak and finally all the way to Sunol. And that trail connection will be made by this part right here with the addition we plan for a bridge crossing the Arroyo. And I'm happy to tell you that Saturday at 10:30 a.m., LARPD will be holding a ribbon cutting ceremony on this property to formally announce the opening of the trail system. So again, this is a tremendous breakthrough and a tremendous victory for land conservation in the Tri Valley. So that is the last view graph I had. Oops. Other than to remind you, I hope my view graphs have reminded us that we have a very beautiful place to live. There's a tremendous amount of open space that's been preserved by our predecessors who've done a fantastic job in the Tri Valley. But we always have to remember there's still all of this beautiful land surrounding the Tri Valley that is equally beautiful and deserves our protection just as much as the South Livermore Valley. So even though we have a beautiful place to live, there's still a lot of work to do and there's still a job to be done. So I hope this was interesting and informative, and if anybody has any questions, I'll do my best to answer them.
I have a couple. Where do you get your funding from? And what happens when the heirs of the property owner decide they want to develop? Is this binding on the heirs of the property owner also?
Yes. Those are both excellent questions. So we have two sources of funding. I didn't mention what is called the South Livermore Valley Specific Plan. The city of Livermore, when they developed a portion of the South Livermore Valley area called the South Livermore Valley Specific Plan, the city of Livermore, in its wisdom, required the developers of the South Livermore area to go out and acquire conservation easements, and the developers were also required to fund an endowment for them. So the answer is that a large fraction of our funding comes from mitigation fees that went along with development rights in the South Livermore Valley. And that is something for which we owe a great debt of thanks to the Livermore City staff and City Council of the time. The other answer, of course, is fundraising. It turns out, and this is a bit of a technical detail, but I'm happy to share it with you, all of our funding in the Tri Valley Conservancy falls into two categories that we call restricted and unrestricted funding. The money that came to us from the development rights in South Livermore we are legally and morally obligated only to use in the South Livermore Valley. So whenever we participate in anything like the preservation of Doolin Canyon that is outside the South Livermore Valley, we have to take what we call unrestricted funds. And the primary source of those is fundraising. So like Rotary, we constantly go out and fundraise it and tell people that it's important to support land conservation in the Tri Valley. And so we have a fundraising organization, we have a fundraising resource development director, Kelly Hayes. So the funding for all of our effort, the funding for most of our efforts outside the South Livermore Valley comes from fundraising. And I'm sorry, what was your second question?
About the heirs?
Yes. Okay. The answer to the easements is when a landowner transfers their development rights to a second party like a land trust, that transference is supposed to be forever. And when another party either purchases the land or inherits the land, the easements go with it. And so that is, legally codified, and the purchaser or the inheritor generally has the responsibility of educating themselves to the fact that that land does no longer have conservation rights. So the conservation easement exists forever in perpetuity. Yes.
Hi, Clay. Dale Millers. Listen, I wanted to ask sort of the other side of that question. You covered very well what happens on the owner's side. How about the legal existence of the easements if, under a worst-case scenario, Tri Valley Conservancy went bankrupt, had an embezzlement, something caused it to not be a viable institution? What happens to the easement? Does the easement only exist as long as you're financially viable?
I think Mark Roberts said, Mark Roberts probably understands that better than I do, but I agree with him. The answer is definitely no.
The answer is absolutely no. For the vast majority of all of those easements, almost all of them, there is something called a beneficiary, and that is a governmental institution. So governments have a tendency to stick around forever. So in the very early easements, it's the County of Alameda and the City of Livermore are both essentially beneficiaries. Sometimes we're co-holders, which is a different type, where we actually have commiserate rights with the trust. But in most cases, our purpose was to sit in the background. First of all, happy 21st birthday.
Thank you.
Having been there at the birth of the Conservancy and worked on the birth of the Conservancy with a lot of my peers at the time, we were very excited to launch the Conservancy. One of the things that's having a little different for the Conservancy is to have parents who are governmental entities. That's not a normal way for a Conservancy to come into the world, and there needs to actually be some distance between your parents as you're growing up to become, a full-fledged Conservancy. Accreditation is a wonderful honor. It shows you guys have now, through multiple generations of management, really hit your stride on that. Congratulations on all of those things. So just wanted to congratulate you on all of those things. The Conservancy is actually a completely independent entity, but if you are worried about things, there is a safety net there. In the early days, we had training wheels. The two governmental agencies helped things along, provided staff even. It's been many, many years since that's been the case. You've gone all the way through adolescence. You're now a full-grown adult, and congratulations.
Thank you, but we actually think of ourselves as young adults.
There you go. You can drink the wine you've been preserving now.
I have a question about the Doolin Canyon. Do you think that the Measure T passage was successful enough that it'll stop anybody else from trying to come in with a different plan?
I have I think Councilmember Gary would like to answer that question.
Okay.
Well, we can both answer it because there's the shorter term technical answer and the longer range political vision. So three things. It's really, really, really helped, but the work is not done. So what the current Livermore Council is doing, and we now have a friendly advocate on the Dublin side of the fence with their UGB, is to have agreed to not develop Doolin Canyon, which was misplayed in the recent political machinations in Dublin. We have no desire to annex Doolin Canyon. We love the fact that East Bay Parks has swallowed what they've got and that there's a UGB. There's still many private lands out there. One thing we continue to do as a city that's quiet, and Mark Roberts could speak on this for a whole nother program, we have still transferred development, developer dollar credits and other mitigations that flow to the city of Livermore. We quietly are buying parcels of land to reinforce the Livermore open space boundary. We own the city parcels up Doolin Canyon Road and west of Springtown. So when small private parcels come up for sale, we're becoming an protectionist aggregator until they can be turned over to a conservancy. So every small 50, 100 acres we can buy tries to fend off, with all due respect to the large developers, what they can aggregate and maybe force the voters in 20 or 30 years to try to unwind. So we see permanent open space and conservancy as the only tools to really ensure the south and north open space boundaries really stay in perpetuity. And I also want to thank publicly, I didn't plan on this today, Mark Roberts. No, seriously, many times you blame government, government mucks stuff up, right? Government doesn't solve anything. As a young planner, those of you living in South Valley, what I'll call South Valley infill, the newer subdivisions, wine country subdivisions, somebody had to figure out the economics, the transfer of development density credits, work with county staff, the then Livermore City Council. That guy was at the heart of it. He's a longtime Livermore careerist with Livermore at its heart. And good government in the 90s has helped recreate the Livermore viticulture and open space preservation that the wineries and the private landowners could then, with security, reinvest in and grow their operations. Tremendous partnership, and we're really lucky that one of the founding fathers is still pulling for the city. Is that fair?
That's absolutely fair, and thank you very much. We try really hard in these presentations to give the historical background of how the Tri Valley Conservancy came into being, and that's why I had that one view graph in there. And it's important for us to communicate to everybody that all of this only happened because of the vision of the founders 20 years ago who formed the South Livermore Valley Area Plan and the South Livermore Valley Specific Plan. If it wasn't for them, there might not and probably would not be a Tri Valley Conservancy today. So, Councilmember Gary said it exactly right. Any more questions?
We're out of time for questions, so if anybody has a question, could you stay after?
I can stay after if anybody has a question.
So, Brian, with all the conservancies that are in place, we have an offering for you of either a nice bottle of Quintana wine or a nice bottle of Olivine olive oil.
Wine.
Your choice. You could take it.